Good evening. It's great to be with the great citizens of Philadelphia tonight. Always great to be talking to you guys. You know, in a recent poll, 74% of Americans, 74% believe America is headed in the wrong direction. 74%. That's alarming. And they're talking about the American dream. We all know what the American dream is. Tonight, I want to focus on the American dream and restoring the American dream. When I was growing up, we had a president by the name of Ronald Reagan. In his 8 years in the White House, President Reagan brought back a sense of patriotism to our nation, a sense of pride that this country needed badly. Now, what you think back, those who can, those who were around, late 1970s, early 80s, our nation at the time had high unemployment, high gas prices, the Iranian hostage crisis. Now, flash forward to where we are today. Look at the cables at night. Read the morning papers. We're seeing some of those same headlines today in today's news. What this nation needs is another Ronald Reagan. During the last year, many people have called me a 2000s version of Ronald Reagan. And while I'm flattered by the comparison, and President Reagan and I share many of the same beliefs, there is only one Ronald Reagan. President Reagan often talked about patriotism. He felt it was important. Well, I do as well. A rebirth of patriotism in this nation starts in our schools. It starts in our schools. Our schools must return the pledge and prayer to schools immediately. I will tell you that this week I heard of a local school uh, in our country that actually the students started singing the national anthem. That so impressed me. That's where our patriotism begins in the classrooms of this country. For it's this that it builds the basis for patriotism and pride in our nation. When I was back in school, and I'm going to date myself a little bit, back in the late 70s and early 80s, I had a government teacher who instilled in me a sense of patriotism. He taught you to believe in your government. And while he's from a different party, and he never tried to push his agenda on the students. Never once do you do that. Our nation needs more Bill Hickeys. And that was my government teacher. An outstanding man who taught me the importance of public service, the importance of giving back to one's community. That begins in the classrooms. The other night, I was talking to a student back in Texas, and we were having a discussion about what he was taking in school. And he told me that there isn't a focus on civics anymore, and that really shocked me and surprised me. Going back to Mr. Hickey in my senior year, that was a senior level course. Matter of fact, that was a full year course in high school. And what you did in the fall semester, which we're in right now, you would learn how a bill becomes a law. You would learn about the branches of government. You would learn about how it works to protect its people. You would come back after Christmas break and you would start House sessions. Mr. Hickey would serve as president, but you would be a congressman or congresswoman, and you would write bills and see them through committee, see them through votes, get them passed by votes, and get them signed by our president. That's where you learned how this government works. And that's where it instilled the importance of public service, not only to me, but all the other people who took that government class. We need to return to that in this country, and that needs to happen as soon as possible. Because, like I said, the classrooms is where the patriotism in this nation begins. We must elect leaders who do not endorse critical or support critical race theory. We must elect leaders that are against the liberal, progressive agenda of the Democratic Party. Just yesterday, I saw Joe Biden in Detroit at the Detroit Auto Show touting about a clean energy future, talking about an all electric vehicle and how the next great vacation was going to be all electric. Let me tell you this: America cannot afford an all electric vacation. Now, I want to set the tone right here on this. I want to set my point straight by saying this: I'm not against clean energy. It has its place in this country, but a total dependence on clean energy will wreck the economy. It will wreck the economy, and we cannot do that at this point in our nation's history. Think about it. Think about if we went to a full clean energy economy, what that would do. Just by what Joe Biden has proposed to do, it's going to eliminate 3,000 jobs from a car manufacturer. 3,000 jobs gone because of the conversion to clean energy. If you want to see what elimination of jobs do to a town that lost the livelihood of why it's there, go to southeastern Tennessee. See what happened to a town out there that I have gone for the past 2 years on church mission trips. The pullout of the coal industry in that town devastated that town. Imagine that happening to Detroit if we do this transition. We cannot do that right now. We cannot do that right now. One of my favorite TV shows, and this goes back a long time as well, is West Wing. Remember that show? In that show, Rob Lowe, we all know who Rob is, right? Rob Lowe, aka Sam Seaborn, talks about education. One of the episodes, he was that they were trying to get a bill passed on education, and I like to quote Sam or Rob tonight. And he said on this episode, "Education is a silver bullet. Education is everything. We don't need little changes. We need gigantic, monumental changes. Schools should be palaces. Competition for the best teachers should be fierce. They should be making six-figure salaries. Schools should be incredibly expensive for government and absolutely free of charge to its citizens, just like national defense. Just like national defense." Now, think about that. We spend billions of dollars every year on our national defense to protect our country. Billions on weapon systems, aircraft, everything. Have we thought about the classroom? That is a part of our nation's defense. And we need to invest in our nation's defense, our nation's classrooms. While this is a line from a TV show, I think it should be true. We need to invest. We need to get the best teachers in the classroom. There needs to be a better teacher student ratio in our classrooms, and that needs to start now. The Democratic Party of President Bartlett, which is featured on the West Wing, is nothing like the Democratic Party of today. Today's party is endorsing a far left agenda, something this nation does not need. It does not need. When it comes to government spending, the Democrats want more government and entitlements. I'm for less government and an end to social welfare. During the last 2 years, our nation has experienced a pandemic not seen in many years. In fact, since the Spanish flu, many government assistance programs were put in place. They needed to be there for a reason because of our economy was shut down and we needed to have funding in place to support our citizens. But now let's fast forward 2 years later. Our nation is seeing decreasing number of COVID cases. Hospitalizations are down. If you go out among the people, life has returned essentially to normal. Planes are full. Roads are full. It's time for us to get back to work and return to normal. Just the other day, I stopped by a local restaurant back home in Texas. As I went to open the door was locked. A sign simply said, closed for 1 hour due to staffing shortage. My friends, there are 10.2 million jobs. You look at the last uh, labor numbers, 10.2 million jobs available in our nation. It's time for every able bodied person to return to work. There is no reason that we can't get our unemployment rate down to 3%. I told you a year ago that that was the goal this year, to get it to 3%. We're almost there, but we're not quite to where we need to be right now. If we get everybody back to work, that number will drop. You know, and we talk about these this restaurant being closed. Also, drove by a restaurant of the same chain and had a fence around it, closed. And I wonder if the failure of that business was it a result of the owner's business practices. Now, while I'm not condemning anybody on the way they run their business, well, I would never do that. But it just gets you to think: was closing the dining room and losing half your business the cause of your business's failure? And if so, and if so, should you be entitled to a bailout? Again, this gets back to government entitlements. Now, if you have a business and you did everything you could to make that business successful, you the drive-in was open, the inside was open. You did everything you could and it didn't work. Yeah, back in those days, I think you're entitled to a government bailout assistance program that was in place. But if you didn't put forth the effort, have everything open, and it failed because of lack of customers, because you didn't open up your dining room, I don't think you're entitled to it. I don't think you're entitled to government assistance. You failed that business. It's an in entitlements, and just simply all of us getting back to work. You know, latest information available, and this goes back to education, uh, shows a drop in test scores. Now, throughout our nation right now, students are taking what's called a benchmark test. And this is where they're seeing where they are right now at the beginning of the school year. They'll do it again at the end of the school year. You know, we've learned that during the pandemic that remote learning, while valuable in the early days of the pandemic, it does not have a place in today's classroom. These benchmark tests, and even uh, uh, the STAR test, like in my home state of Texas, have shown math and science scores down, an average between 5 and 7%. And we need to get that under control. And I think by investing, like I said earlier, investing in our nation's education and considering our education just as important as our national defense, we will solve that problem. You know, the polarization we're seeing in our nation as a result of the pandemic, it's got to stop. You know, there's so much hatred going on throughout our nation because we all have different opinions. Well, you know what? We're a country made up of different people from all walks of life. We all don't have the same opinion. We all have different opinions on everything. We need to learn to respect those opinions. We've become so divided across our country. You know, everything's dividing us. A year or so ago, we were getting angry over the use of face masks. Fist fights were starting because we were wearing face masks. We should learn to respect one another when it comes to that. If you want to wear a face mask, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. That's your choice. My friends, in our nation's 245-year history, we have accomplished great things during a national crisis. Mankind's greatest achievement was achieved or accomplished during the Vietnam War, the Apollo moon landing. We can once again achieve great goals during the end of this pandemic, the endemic part of it, only if we come together as one. Come together and quit the fighting. Let's start respecting one another again. Let's reach out to our brothers and sisters and shake their hands. Let's once again become that nation that President Reagan talked about so often, that shining city on a hill. You know, when President Reagan took his oath of office back in January of 1981, he took his oath on the west side of the Capitol, looking out over the mall, the National Mall. If you've ever been up there, looking out over the National Mall back toward the west, and he looked, he looked over. You could look and see the entire National Mall. You could look at and see headed toward the rest of the country. And he spoke about that shining city on the hill on those steps. So let's recommit ourselves to becoming that shining city on a hill. In Matthew 5, verse 14, Matthew says, "You're the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden." So tonight, my friends, in the word of scripture, let us become what Matthew called the city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. Let's come together and accomplish great things. I know we can do this. May God bless you. May God bless our troops. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much.